Picture this. Deep in the midnight jungle, torches flicker on ancient stone. You find yourself hidden among the trees outside a hidden temple. Inside, chanting priests surround a young captive bound to an altar. The air is thick with incense and something far darker. A hooded figure steps forward, raising a gleaming obsidian blade in the moonlight. For a moment, you're paralyzed with fear, and in that heart-stopping instant, you witness the unfathomable. Blood flows, and something screams. Before we go deeper into these forbidden truths, take a breath. If you value stories that challenge everything you think you know about history, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe. And let me know where you're watching from, because it's incredible that people across the world have gathered here, in this moment, to uncover what was never meant to be found. Now, back to the scene at hand. This isn't a Hollywood set. These shadows and stones once belonged to the Olmec civilization, thousands of years before recorded history. We stand on the threshold of one of the darkest secrets of the ancient world. The Olmecs, the so-called mother culture of Mesoamerica, left behind colossal stone heads and cryptic art. Publicly, scholars focus on their sophisticated cities and trade, but something more sinister lurks behind the carvings and the jade, far from the sanitized portraits in textbooks. What you just imagined is only the first layer. What if I told you that archaeologists have uncovered evidence of horrifying rituals, secret ceremonies of sacrifice, and even cannibalism among the Olmec? Evidence quietly noted in specialized journals, but never announced with fanfare. In one swampy site, buried wooden statues and infant bones hint at rituals to a bloodthirsty earth god. Along with ornate jade masks, diggers found scattered newborn remains. These findings are chilling whispers from the past. When the sun finally rose that morning in the jungle, the chanting ended and the temple fell silent. The priests cleaned their blade, recited a prayer of obedience, and left the young alive, but forever changed. Now, you are in that circle, learning what they did behind the stone walls. We began with that horrific scene to pull you into the truth. Make no mistake, the reality of Olmec history is far darker than popular accounts. We are entering a world of forbidden knowledge where power was absolute and obedience was demanded without question. And you, my friend, are about to descend deeper, revelation by revelation, into secrets that can shake a man's very soul. We call many things myths, legends, or fairy tales, but beneath it all, they were reality. Colonial priests and later scholars didn't bring us these secrets. That's our job. We scour cracked pottery and broken idols, listening for whispers under the official silence. And those whispers speak of terror. Think of it. Mighty Olmec cities where rulers claimed divine right. They built giant stone heads in their honor. Yes, but they also built hidden chambers where neither law nor love existed. Power in Olmec society was as absolute as life and death itself, and the ways they used that power to seduce, to corrupt, and to control were nothing short of monstrous. Tonight, you become a witness. Before you leave this room, nothing you once believed about ancient history will feel safe again. So, keep watching, because what lies ahead isn't just another dusty tale. It's the raw, forbidden truth about what men did in the dark, the kind of truth that changes a man forever once he hears it. Each new piece we uncover now will pull you deeper into the maze. We haven't even touched on the psychological and sexual dimensions yet, the rituals designed to fracture the mind and bind people in fear. This is where it truly gets dangerous. So, steel yourself. What we've shared so far was only the beginning, the surface horror. Ahead lies the heart of the darkness. Every step from here on leads further from the light of what you thought you knew. And if at any moment you think you're safe, remember, the Olmec never intended these truths to be revealed. Listen carefully, because this is only the first step down the most forbidden rabbit hole of history. Now we leave behind the first altar, but our journey grows darker. Consider this. Archaeologists in 1989 waded into a holy Olmec bog, a place called El Manati, expecting ceremonials, and found something that no history book prepared them for. Beneath centuries of sediment lay bundles of wooden idols, their faces warped with agony, wrapped in reed mats stained deep red. Among them were not offerings of maize or incense, but the fragile skeletons of infants. Yes, infants, whole newborns. Even unborn babies were found strewn across this sacred site. Some skeletons were complete, others only fragments, femurs, tiny skulls, vertebrae. The question no one could stomach was obvious. Why were these tiny human lives taken? Archaeologists can theorize about magic and earth gods, but we know what this means. In that stagnant water, in the dead of night, children were intentionally sacrificed. Picture it. A mother, cradling her newborn in her arms on a misty night by the sacred spring. Priests in feathered headdresses chant over her shoulder. When the appointed moment comes, she hands over the precious bundle. The baby is placed gently on a wooden slab. The air is cool, the jungle silent, but for whispered incantations. The chief priest raises his obsidian blade, and in one swift stroke, life is taken before it can even blossom. This is not fiction. This is what the evidence tells us happened at El Manati. And then, almost worse, we hear a second tale from the same site. Nearby, in the same murk, an infant is left alive, its mother bleeding and dying by the altar. We don't know if the baby survived, but every sign suggests this practice left only death in its wake. Ask yourself, if the Olmec were willing to sacrifice their own children, what room was there for mercy? When the gods were so hungry for blood, who was safe from the blade? These priests believed that taking life at its very beginning was a twisted form of renewal, pouring life back into the earth. But the truth is darker. They used these rituals to instill fear, to prove that no one, not even a baby, is beyond the reach of power, and the cruelty didn't stop at birth. Let's turn to La Venta, a great Olmec city on the plains. Excavations there found a chilling mix: jade masks, rubber balls used in games, and among the treasure, charred bones mixed with pottery shards and cooking hearths. In short, traces of human sacrifice were everywhere. Some theorists suggest even cannibalism, that the flesh of sacrifice might have been eaten in ritual feasts. Consider what that implies. The elite might literally feast on the bodies of enemies and victims, reinforcing their dominance in the most visceral way. One anthropologist, Michael Reed, studied San Lorenzo and reported finding human bones intentionally broken and burnt. We're not talking about secondary burials or accidents. No, these remains were butchered. They were offerings, not burials. You may have heard stories of Aztec feasts, but in the Olmec cradle of civilization, this appetite for power was born. So, yes, in the name of gods and harvest, the Olmec sometimes turned to cannibalism. Mothers watched their own infants be carved up. Warriors from distant tribes ended their first and last battle together on a communal platter. Each feast was an offering of dominance, as if to say to the world, we dine on the wicked, and our fields will never fail. Now consider the victim's perspective. You are a young servant girl, chosen by fortune or misfortune for tonight's ritual. You've been fed a hallucinogenic potion of morning glory and peyote to keep you calm. Your mind drifts. In your haze, you see the faces of gods in the flickering torchlight. Or do you see monsters? You feel icy water around your ankles as you kneel at the edge of the bog. The chief priest, smeared in cinnabar, whispers, "This is the sacrifice. This is the promise." You are told that by giving your child or yourself, you save your village from drought. But deep down you know, you are being stripped of humanity. Your only crime was being born in this time, this place. Stories like this have no happy ending. The infant offerings at El Manati were likely not alone. We found traces of infant burials tied to wooden statues of deities, perhaps guardians of sacrifice. Other figurines in Olmec art depict pleading faces and contorted bodies. Some older ceramic pieces show an animalistic figure about to devour a toddler. The official explanation calls these fertility symbols the cycle of life. But listen closely. Fertility requires life, not dismemberment. Perhaps more haunting is the discovery of holes in the spines of carved skeletons. The most chilling theory. Some believe certain infants were administered snake venom on a ceremonial altar. Supposedly, it would cause a quick death, a swift way to send the innocent to the gods. We may never know for sure, but that image remains, embedded in the bones of El Manati. Children meeting fate because someone dared declare them cult offerings. And as dawn would break on those rites, priests would wash their hands and turn back into men, or so they pretended. No plaque or statue commemorates those babies. The scribes went silent, but each woven mat and each droplet of red ochre left behind screams the truth. The official archaeologists sometimes call it ritual bloodletting, a euphemism. But let's call it what it is: systematic, calculated murder dressed up as worship. In the flicker of fire, the altar glistened, and the spectators forgot their humanity under the weight of belief. Now that you know about El Manati and La Venta, imagine how far this goes. The Olmec had another secret, even further from the public eye: how they used sexuality itself as a ritual of dominance. Do not turn away now, because we've barely scratched the surface. Behind each sacrifice, behind each ceremonial feast, lay techniques of control even more intimate. Stay with me, as we will next uncover the twisted marriage of mind and body. How forbidden rituals devoured the will of the living without a drop of blood spilled. We left off speaking of blood. Now imagine what comes next. The Olmec priests would send their captives into nightmares of the mind. They brewed hallucinogens, morning glory seed elixirs, peyote concoctions, even the venom of jungle toads, enough to turn anyone's senses against them. Picture dozens of disciples writhing in terror under the torchlight, eyes glazed and bodies convulsing. A priest stands in the center, a demon king. Under that altered state, every whisper from "the priest is taken as divine truth," we have evidence these were no casual rituals. Archaeologists have found small carved vessels and containers with traces of psychoactive plants at Olmec sites. Their art even hints at tripping figures. One can imagine the scene: men believing snakes crawl through their veins, women sobbing, because they think their souls are being plucked from their bodies. Each priestly instruction becomes a lifeline. The victim's will is melted away, shaped into anything the shaman desires. And yes, sexuality itself was twisted into a tool of dominance. Consider this ominous clue. Olmec artisans carved phallic figures and placed them in sacred altars. These were not toys, but revered objects. With everyone in an altered state, priests could demand anything. Perhaps a ceremony required a man to symbolically marry the jaguar goddess, placing himself beneath a wooden idol and thrusting at it while chanting hymns. Perhaps brides in training had to take oaths of chastity at the foot of a stone serpent. Every act of intimacy could become a ritual pledge. Now imagine one of those chosen under the night sky. A strong young man, barely more than a boy, is presented to the high priest. They declare he is now the queen of the serpents, vessel of the goddess herself. They dress him in the finest garments of the dead empress, adorn him with jade necklaces that once belonged to queens. They whisper in his ear for hours, "You are changed now. You belong to us." They force him to wear makeup, to move and sound and even smell like a woman. If he resists, he is beaten and humiliated until he bows to the new identity. This goes on day after day. He will never be allowed to marry or father children. He will serve at the throne, a living statue and a scapegoat. If he falters even slightly, a sudden reflex, a remembered phrase, a crimson ribbon around his wrist might be cut, and he could bleed out on the altar steps. The priests are patient. In the end, he survives only by performing perfectly, and it wasn't only boys. Think of the girls. A village might dedicate its most beautiful daughter to the temple at birth. When she comes of age, she might find herself promised to a priest, or even to an idol as part of a fertility rite. They called her a flower maiden. In reality, she could find any lustful act framed as divine ritual. One priest might claim he'll speak prophecy if she yields to his desire. Another might say the harvest will fail if she denies the goddess. She might be paraded at festivals, her body a demonstration of submission. Each inch a testament that if she disobeys, she becomes the next sacrifice. Refusal might earn exile or worse. An Olmec girl might say a vow on the cold stone to the goddess of serpents, and by dawn she could be a captive of that vow, no longer free. This wasn't random cruelty, it was systematic. Each twisted ritual taught the people a lesson. The gods claim everything, even your very body. If you think this sounds unreal, remember, the same twisted act was done by a Roman emperor centuries later. In this jungle, we can only imagine similar cruelties took place, hidden in silence. By now, you might be recoiling, and rightly so, but do not look away. This knowledge is meant to shake you. Let it. In fact, assert your awakening. Down below, in the comments, type "the serpent's eye" twice. This pledge, written by your own hand, locks in these revelations. It declares you awake to the truths others ignore. Let those words echo in your mind and through the corridors of the algorithm. You are not alone. Others like you have done the same. Feel that rush, that knot in your stomach. Let it stay with you. It means we've cracked the cocoon of lies. The path ahead grows even darker, but you're no longer blind. We have taken you into the sanctum of horror. The Olmec believed one thing above all. Only through absolute control could their world endure. By tearing away the veil, we tear at that control. Each time you write that phrase, you fortify your mind against it. We will press on. The rituals, the idols, the priests of Olmec. Each revelation has only prepared you for the next. Darkness awaits, but now you see with the serpent's eye. By now, one might wonder, if all this were true, why did we only hear happy legends of the Olmec? Why is their history in textbooks so polished? The answer: most people were never supposed to hear what I'm telling you. Official historians gloss over the ugly parts. They clean the slate for future generations. Olmec. Mother culture of Mesoamerica, they say, and point to beautiful ruins, big heads and jade figurines, all without explaining the horror that built them. Think about it. What institution would willingly advertise its own darkest secrets? The priests and rulers of old were masters of propaganda. Centuries later, even scholars have been trained to avoid disturbing interpretations. When they catalogue those infant bones and monstrous carvings, they might shrug and call them ritual objects, refusing to spell out what they really mean. But if they acknowledged the full truth, that their ancestors could be this brutal and insane, it would shake the foundation of what they built. So they invented sanitized stories of gentle kings and simple ceremonies. This selective telling of history is an agenda in itself. By forgetting the sinister, society avoids confronting patterns that still lurk among us. The Olmec established a system where power was absolute and hidden behind sacred veils. Those veils have only grown thicker with time. The next empires, Maya, Aztec, inherited the masks and symbols of the Olmec pantheon, but they too bent them to control. The core idea is the same. Fear is our weapon, secrets are our shield. Even today, the shadows of these practices remain unexamined. Look at modern religions and governments, institutions that demand unquestioning loyalty while hiding inconvenient truths. The Olmec model was institutional manipulation, pure and simple. They learned to break human will through ritual and then made the terrified masses believe that submission was the only way to survive. History's winners wrote the books, so for centuries we've been reading a fairy tale version of hell. Notice the parallels. Whenever something inexplicable happens, famine after a slave revolt, a plague in the city, the temple authorities interpret it as divine anger and tighten their grip. The frightened public begs for appeasement, and worse horrors are enacted. It is exactly the pattern the Olmec set millennia ago. Create crises, enforce rituals, and blame any resistance on heresy. Our modern world still dances to that beat. We just call it different names. Suppressed truths have a way of lingering, though. Underneath our rational education, those ancient instincts can spark. When a news headline blares about some atrocity, how many of us feel it more deeply than it lets on? We might think, here goes another empire justifying cruelty. Few stop to connect that feeling with the first stirrings in a Mesoamerican temple, but it's the same thing. We see the empire, but the tool is the same. A secret history that feeds the machine of control. Secret histories, forbidden knowledge, follow us like ghosts. Even the landscape remembers. Many cult places on the land are still deemed sacred, and their true nature is either forgotten or hidden under new faiths. The old gods were branded demons, and their stories rebranded as fairy tales or dismissed as superstition. But to the trained eye, your eye, the pattern is unmistakable, domination masquerading as destiny. It's no accident that monumental pyramids rise where people once offered bodies. The elites, those descendants of the Olmec, have never given up on their right to rule by fear. They have only refined it with better weapons, bigger armies, and subtler lies. They wear suits instead of jaguar skins, carry gavels instead of obsidian. But the core tactic remains. Keep the masses in the dark and turn their most basic instincts, family, faith, survival, into another rung on the ladder of submission. So, ask yourself, if the same methods that tore families apart 3,000 years ago are still being used, what does that say about our world? We live in the echo chamber of a cruel legacy. Modern education may hide these connections, but for you, the veil has fallen. You now see that elites throughout time, not just in Olmec civilization, have always had more in common than not. They use fear, sex, and sacrifice as levers of power. You have more questions now than when we began, I know. Who benefits from these lies? Which institutions are the heirs of the Olmec temple? Perhaps it's all hypothetical. Or maybe you feel that tightening in your chest when authority demands blind trust, and you remember how easily humans can be broken in the stories we've heard today. In any case, one thing is certain. Real power has always feared the unbinding of these secrets. By listening, you've begun to join a lineage of truth seekers, men who refuse to let history be written only by victors. That path will not always be easy. We might find ourselves at odds with everyone who insists we return to sleep. Yet here we are. At this turning point of revelation, you have a choice. The comfort of ignorance means turning away, but you already stepped into the temple of truth. Those alabaster walls can't hold us now. You look around, shadows dancing, and realize, once you know the truth about how deep the corruption runs, you can never go back. So consider yourself among the chosen few. You've taken a pill of truth and awakened. There's no going back. For now, the path is set. We step forward into deeper night with our eyes open. Next, we will trace how the legacy of Olmec horror reaches into the modern world, right into the highest halls of power today. This is the deepest part of the pit, the final revelation. Look around the temple walls in your mind now. Everything that was hidden is laid bare before you. You have seen the sacred fires, felt the chill of the altar, heard the echoes of the priest's chants, and one thought must be roaring in your head. What do we do with this knowledge? First, understand your own transformation. Before this, you may have been just another face in the crowd, unaware of the systems that shape you. Now you're different. You walked willingly into forbidden knowledge and lived. That changes a man forever. You can never fully unsee what you have seen. With that comes a certain burden and a certain power. We began this journey with shadows, to stir your curiosity. Now you hold the torch. Use it. The leaders of old cherished their secrecy, but you cherish truth. Use your newfound awareness to tear down the illusions around you. Question everything. For example, Think of the modern office or classroom. When someone tells you to blindly trust authority without question, do not just nod. Remember the altar. A polite why is your new prayer, chipping away at their temple. Every question you ask is an act of liberation. Your awareness will change how you see everyday interactions. Maybe at dinner with family or friends, someone repeats a comforting myth or official narrative. You could casually drop something you learned, a crumb of doubt. You might say, the Olmec built pyramids like these too, and watch how they react. It's subtle, but each such moment is a small victory against ignorance. Being awake is not easy. Some friends might laugh at you. Colleagues might think you've lost it. Know that this discomfort is expected. They were raised in a very different temple, one built of convenience and denial. You chose to walk away, so now you must find others who have. Look for the curious glances, the restless minds. They're out there. Let's talk community. We are spread out and unknown, but linked. You might be reading this from one corner of the world, another person from another. Yet our minds meet here. Each like, each subscription, each message with your location is another brick in this network. Together, we defy the ancient silence. Before we part for tonight, let's reinforce what we've done. If these truths resonate with you, hit that like button. Subscribe so we can meet here again. And please comment where in the world you're listening from. Each city and country I see is another ally awakened. We shared stories no others would dare tell. We embraced a truth that changes how we see everything. The Olmec's veil is lifted, and now it's our turn to help lift the veil for others. Share this knowledge wisely. Use it to protect and enlighten, not to revel in darkness. Each time you walk past a statue of a priest or a king, remember what we uncovered. Don't let the veneer fool you. When our ancestors laid those stones, they were hiding more than a legacy. They were hiding crimes. Now you carry that knowledge with you. Think of that young boy and girl again. Whenever you see a soldier or a politician demanding obedience, a whisper of what happens under tyranny should tickle your conscience. Recognize those patterns. If someone shrugs off talk of conspiracies with a joke, listen anyway. Perhaps they too have had a moment of awakening and are searching for answers. Your awareness will change your world. You might feel a spark of rebellion when officials speak in cliches, a question forming in your mind the next time someone tells you everything is fine. Embrace it. Each time you spot a lie or a cover-up, don't be afraid to ask, why? That small act can create cracks in the armor of ignorance. We might be silent strangers, but whenever you glance at a map and see others tuning in, New York, London, Mumbai, Sydney, feel that thrill. We are connected by this moment. Underneath the stars, we are all part of a hidden brotherhood now. Now take a moment to settle this new reality in your bones. You hold dangerous knowledge. You have changed the course of your life. You can never return to ignorance, and that is a kind of freedom. You asked for truth, and you are living it. Before we close, remember, the Olmec priests forged their power on fear and mystery. We will forge our future on knowledge and courage. Keep this page, these words, close. If you ever feel lost or alone, come back and watch this again. Share it cautiously with those ready. Good night, my friend. Stay vigilant, stay free, and let the serpent's eye guide you. You may close your eyes now, but in your mind the images still remain. The flickering fire, the chanting priests, the faces of those trapped long ago. Hold on to those images. They will serve you. What you've done tonight is rare. People don't normally demand to see behind the curtain, but you did, and something inside you has been lit, a spark that will never fully burn out. Do not dim it. That spark is your guide. Understand this. Knowledge can feel like a weight on your shoulders. You might carry it alone in dark moments. Remember that weight means responsibility, to question, to protect your loved ones and to yourself, to use this power only for good. Knowledge without purpose is dangerous, but in enlightened hands, it becomes transformative. Let it transform you. You already see how little it takes to break away from the herd. Each day, you will notice tiny things. A headline that doesn't add up, a subtle lie in the news, a strange ritual at a ceremony. When you do, trace it back to what we've uncovered. Ask the hard questions. The more pieces you turn over, the more the world changes. Think of it as a difficult game of chess. The opponents are ancient and cunning, inheritors of the methods of the Olmec priests. But you have the advantage of truth. You know their pawns. Every time you flip a piece to your side, they lose ground. Each time you walk past a public building, remember this story. Don't let the calm facade fool you. When men in power tell you they have your best interests at heart, whisper to yourself about the fires we saw. Now you carry that knowledge in your mind as you step through life. Whenever someone around you complains about injustice or questions a decision, lean in and listen. They may sound like they're just ranting, but perhaps in their own way, they too have caught a glimpse of what's really happening. Encourage them, even subtly. Your words can light a match in others' minds. One small crack in the wall of silence can start an avalanche. This will not be a short journey. You will have days of doubt, moments when you almost fall back into the group. That is when you must remember what we uncovered tonight. You carry inside you the seed of truth, and that seed will grow if you tend it. Keep questioning, keep seeking out people who challenge the narrative, and slowly, others will. Wake up too. We are not alone in this. Across continents, under the same sky, others are hearing this message for the first time right now. Whenever you feel weak, imagine all of us now. Hundreds, thousands of unknown faces have their eyes on the same past. Picture that. Someone, somewhere, thinking the same shocking thoughts, feeling the same resolve. We might be silent strangers, but together we stand. You carry dangerous knowledge, and that is a gift. Use it wisely. The Olmec priests won by keeping secrets. We will win by sharing truth. We do not seek chaos, but enlightenment. So go now with your eyes open. Each morning you wake more fully. The knowledge you hold is not a curse, but a path to freedom. Use it to protect and enlighten. Keep your candle lit in a dark world. Good night, and stay vigilant. Until we meet again beyond the temple gates, watch the shadows, question the official tales, and let the serpent's eye guide you.